Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. Right now, I want to give you another live look on your screen of the West Bank as we continue to follow the very latest of the Israel-Hamas war. On the first day of the four-day ceasefire, Hamas releasing 24 of about those 240 hostages that were taken during its October 7th attack on Israel that triggered the war. We're also knowing that Israel freed 39 Palestinians from prison. Joining me now is Emily Schrader. She's an Israeli journalist to shed some light on all of this. Emily, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So if we can first start about the impact of the Israel-Hamas war. We know this four-day ceasefire is underway, but if you can catch us up, how did we even get to this point?
Well, I mean, this was all started by the attack on October 7th by the terrorist organization Hamas, of course, with the backing, funding, and even training of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is their sponsor, both Hamas and Islamic Jihad, the other terrorist group in the Gaza Strip. So this does have Iran's fingerprints all over it. But nonetheless, it was Hamas who carried out the attack, murdering over 1,200 Israeli citizens, kidnapping, including women and children, kidnapping, even sexual assault of women and girls, kidnapping over 200 people, bringing them to Gaza. And that has brought us to the situation we're in today now with the IDF attacking Hamas sites in the Gaza Strip, and of course, the hostage crisis. So it is an ongoing issue. We do have a temporary ceasefire, as all Israeli officials have affirmed repeatedly. This is something temporary. They do intend to continue targeting Hamas, but this is they are hopeful that the maximum number of hostages will be released through this.
Emily, you raised a great point. You said this has Iran's fingerprints all over it. Could you expound upon that statement, please?
Right. So, I mean, the Islamic Republic of Iran has spent the last 44 years since they came to power, overthrowing the Shah in Iran, investing and funding in terrorist organizations all throughout the Middle East. So we have seen multiple Arab Muslim countries being destabilized by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I want to differentiate between the regime itself and the people who largely are against the government, even within Iran. In fact, throughout this war, some of the biggest allies of the people of Israel have been Iranian people, both in the diaspora and within Iran itself. That being said, the reason for that is because they understand what this regime is that we're actually dealing with. So when it comes to their proxies throughout the region, we have Hamas and Islamic Jihad, as I mentioned, in the Gaza Strip, also some in the West Bank, but we also have Iranian proxy Hezbollah on the Lebanese border, which has been carrying out rocket and shelling attacks of Israelis on the northern border as well during this time period. And of course, we also have the Houthis in Yemen and militias in Iraq and Syria, both that are also Iranian proxies. So this is a huge problem, not just for Israel, but for the entire region, because we've seen untold, uncountable numbers of deaths of innocent Arab Muslims throughout this region at the hands of that regime. So in that sense, the Arab world actually is and should be aligned with the state of Israel against the likes of Hamas.
Great perspective there, Emily. Thank you for expounding upon that statement. So yesterday we were all watching as this truce deal unfolded, those Hamas hostages being released in exchange for those Palestinian prisoners. I just want to get your first thoughts as you were watching this. I saw some of the family members at what they're now calling Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. They were singing, they had the candles lit. What's the mood out there as all of this is happening in real time?
Well, I mean, on the ground, I think the majority of Israelis are very relieved to see at least some of the hostages come home relatively safely. Obviously, in some cases, you have children whose parents have been murdered by the very terrorists who have been holding them captive. So they're going home to, unfortunately, a very different reality than what they left with when they were abducted by this brutal terrorist organization. That being said, every life is precious. And I think that the entire Israeli public celebrates the return of every single civilian. At the same time, we know that none of us are really free until all of us are free. So the Israeli government and public is very much focused on securing the release of the remaining hostages, and that no more bloodshed should take place if possible, except of course Hamas, who needs to be eliminated if we're going to protect the innocent lives, frankly, on both sides. I don't want to take this to a very dark direction, but in the Palestinian territories last night, 2 innocent Palestinians were lynched by a mob of Hamas supporters because they were accused of supporting Israel. So this is the reality that we're dealing with, a very barbaric and dark terrorist organization for both peoples. And it's for that reason that we really need to take a firm stance against them.
And so, Emily, we understand that this ceasefire is only 4 days. What are the talks out there once this ceasefire ends? I know IDF has been standing firm that they will not stop until Hamas is eliminated.
Yes, so that is the feeling. The public also does support this. As I mentioned, the goal here isn't, the war isn't against Palestinians, it's against Hamas specifically. And the purpose here, as the IDF has stated throughout and will continue to after the ceasefire, is to eradicate Hamas's ability to threaten Israeli civilians. Now, unfortunately, that's a reality we've been dealing with for 15 plus years since Israel withdrew unilaterally from the Gaza Strip. Since then, there have been over 20,000 rockets in the past 15, 20 years being fired at southern Israeli communities, some of these same communities which the terrorists invaded and murdered and abducted innocent civilians. So that is the reality that we're dealing with. I'm confident that the state and the IDF will do everything that they need to do in order to restore a sense of security when it comes to dealing with Hamas and any other terrorist organizations that are threatening the safety and well-being of innocent people.
All right, Emily Schrader, an Israeli journalist. Emily, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation here on Live Now from Fox. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else you'd like to add before I let you go?
No, just that I think it's really important that people understand that this war is not, as I stated before, it is not between Israel and the Palestinians. This is not a war that Israel wanted. This is a war that was forced upon us by a terrorist organization, not by the Palestinian people. And it's important to remember that when we're talking about what the objectives of this are. It is not our interest that any innocent civilian is harmed, nor do we want that. But at the same time, we have to, do our obligation to our own people and ensure that this organization, of course, with the instruction and backing of Iran, cannot continue to murder and kidnap innocent people the way that they did on October 7th.
All right, Emily, thank you again for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm sure it won't be the last time I speak with you, but you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.